Hey everyone, Cristina Gutierrez here, COO and partner at Simple CFO Solutions, and welcome to the Simple CFO Case Files, our very next episode, where we are pulling back the curtain on exactly how we help real estate investors transform their businesses. So we're hearing it directly from the CFOs that do the actual work. So today, in every episode, we're talking about exactly how we use the actual system, not just wins, not just what's going on, the actual tools, the process that we use every single day to transform our clients' businesses. So today I am here with one of our probably longest CFOs that we've had, Michael Hansen. He's been a CFO for quite some time. He's actually been very instrumental in Simple CFO altogether, and he just continues to knock it out of the park, improves the businesses for not just Simple CFO but all the clients that we work with, no matter what it takes. Michael has made a huge impact with me in general. I actually met with him a lot when I came on, and we've actually built a very good relationship. I've really enjoyed working with him. So, Michael, welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, and I'm certainly looking forward to this conversation. It's been wonderful working with you as well.
Thanks. So real quick, give us a 30, 60 second, you can never do it in 30, 60 second wrap up of, what the clients that you work with are, what type of clients you are, how do you work with them, what's so important about the work you do.
Excellent. I appreciate that. So I historically have worked with many of our multi-entity and larger clients, as well as our very fresh, just getting started clients. So I have a real passion for helping clients move the needle, regardless of what stage they're at. And I try my very best to kind of meet them where they're at. So I have, as long as a business owner is ready to move their business to the next level, that is what I specialize in, is helping them kind of move to that next level. Sometimes that means fixing what's broken to get them back to neutral, and then we rocket ship. Other times they're already on fire, and we figure out how to light that afterburner and do even better. So that's a general this. I know our conversation is probably going to get into more specifics, but I'll leave that to you to guide. And that's the gist of how I work with my clients, or at least my overall goals for that.
Yeah. And sometimes, they can come to us on fire in a good way and on fire in a not so good way.
Totally agree. And that's, the variety is what I absolutely love, between the support that we get here at Simple CFO as a team and the variety of clients, even though we specialize in the real estate investing world, which is amazing. I was introduced actually many years ago when I started with Simple CFO to the industry and have dove in. I now consider myself pretty adept at understanding the real estate investing world. And so that was a gift that was given by David and the rest of the team, Cristina included, to me.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that statement. And that's perfect that we're talking about that, because my very first question, that we all know that people look for a CFO because they might have some type of pain in their business, right? They either don't understand the numbers, they don't know what's going on. There's a breadth of reasons why they would even call us and say, because most people think, I don't even know what a CFO is. So I have an accountant, I have a bookkeeper. So what do you think is their financial pain? What do you see when clients come to you that their actual pain that they're in is that you can help them with?
Yeah, excellent question. I think that the pain that most clients have boil down to the same exact thing, even though it comes in lots of different flavors, right? We're the 31 flavors of financial distress, basically. But it really all boils down to that one thing. And that is, at least my observation, okay? I love that the name of our business, I'm just prefacing my answer here, is Simple CFO, okay? That's one of the things that I've kind of built a foundation on, is because oftentimes we need to simplify the actual pain that they're creating, is what I find. And where it all comes down to is having the right amount of cash in the right place at the right time. So cash flow management and understanding how cash flows through a business is, in my experience, the foundational pain point that people sometimes aren't able to have language around or articulate, but that's where it really comes from. Having the right amount of money in the right place at the right time for the right purpose, and creating systems around that commitment has been at all levels, right? At all levels. For those, as I mentioned, I've worked with a lot of our multi-entities, some that, from 300,000 or 400,000 a year in revenue to $50 million a year in revenue. And it's the same answer, Cristina. It's really the same answer. It's not having the right amount of money in the right place at the right time and systems around it to commit to that.
Yeah.
Concept.
That is so well said. Yeah. So well said. And that's true. I mean, they say, what did I hear? Cash is king, profit is queen. And there's something else then. Processes are, I don't know, I can't remember right now, but there's a saying to that, right? Because you can look profitable all you want on the books, but if you don't have any cash, you really don't have, you can't make your next moves. You can't put cash into anything. You can't accomplish goals because revenue is just a number that sits on your income statement.
Exactly. And one of the things that I find absolute joy in the very first part of working is when the light finally comes on to where a business owner will understand the difference between profit and cash. Okay, so profit and cash, or even revenue and cash, right? So I think most of our clients, real estate investors, understand the difference between revenue and profit because they know they take in a lot and they hope to keep a little, right? That's kind of the way it works. But cash is so much different. I mean, that profit and loss, or that income or that profit at the bottom, really is a report of what you created in theory on paper. But it doesn't tell you about the capacity that you have to make new decisions today, right? Because the old thing of, geez, my accountant told me I made $100,000 and I owe $40,000 in taxes. How am I going to pay for that? Well, that's the first indication that the $100,000 felt good and it gave us confidence that we're moving in the right direction, but it didn't give us capacity. So the difference between having confidence and capacity is really important. And that's where cash comes into play. So that's a long answer to a very simple question. The marshaling of cash has been the biggest common denominator that I have found in most of the clients that I work with at all levels.
Yeah, I think I agree. And I couldn't have said it better myself because that is so true. All right, let's talk about your first 60 days. So kind of always had this feeling of, we want to hit the ground running. We want to get you exactly what you need in the first 60 days. We want to lay the financial foundation. So we accomplished that through using our tools, implementing Profit First, getting their CEO dashboard set up. Tell me what the first 60 days with the client looks like for you.
Excellent question. So I, first of all, work very, very hard to establish what we're actually, so I basically tell that same story. Okay. I help translate. So the very first thing is clarity. Okay. I want to make sure that we have a clear picture of not just the entire business, but I focus on the lowest hanging fruit. Right. So I go very vaguely over the big picture in the very beginning. Okay. And that includes how clean their books are, all of that stuff. Okay. And then
assessment.
Yes, I do. I'm sorry.
Financial assessment.
Financial assessment. That's
right. Assessing it from the high view.
Yes. From a very high view, I do a financial assessment and it kind of tells us what the score is. My primary focus is how much cash do they have in the bank today. That's my focus. They don't know that, but that's where I look for immediately. And then I start to have a conversation that helps them get their head around getting cash square. Okay. Because it is not something that comes, even though it's very simple and very obvious once we start to work on it, it isn't what they think we're going to be working on, right? It isn't what they think we're going to be working on. And part of that comes from, you're right. Most folks that we work with have never had a financial professional on their team working specifically for them. They may have worked with outside consultants or cash flow that is teaching them some concepts. But where Simple CFO shines is we get in the trenches as a partner. And I know I speak for many of our other professionals that are helping with Simple CFO. It becomes our business, whether we own it or not. Right? We think of it that way. I know for certain clients that you've described that that's exactly the way, and that's always the way it's been for me. So I really try my best to help them understand how to work, how to extract as much value out of our services as possible very early on. Right? Because what I don't want is for them to have some kind of false sense of reality of what they think our job really is. Right? Because they come to that with either no knowledge, as you said, or some kind of assumption that it's what it's not. So I work really hard very early on to say, these are our goals, correct? Yes. And I don't mean what they said. I try to shift their goals to things that we can move the needle that can often get to where they actually want to go. So what they call their goals have lots of steps in between to get even close to those goals. So I break it back down to the lowest hanging fruit, and that's usually cash. And so that first 60 days, we do that. One of the things that I focus on with real estate investors in particularly is their cash position. Okay. And I literally, even though we paint a picture of where we'll head as soon as we can get that square, what I try to focus on is their cash position. How much cash do they have? What have they already committed to? Whether they even internalize it as a commitment or not. I help them understand the actual commitments that they've made so that they don't commit the cardinal sin, which is what's happening. And that is making multiple decisions with the same dollar and not realizing it. Okay. So my personal way of working with them is to get a good handle on that cash position. And then once we've done that, or at least the need to look at that cash position on a very regular basis, okay? On a very regular basis. The next step is, okay, let's see what the data that we're creating in your business is actually telling. What kind of a story are we telling you? And that's the financial clarity piece, okay? That is the next piece that is really necessary for us to serve, at least in my experience, in that we have to be able to see the results that we're creating and how we're doing that. So I take a look and I do a full financial clarity assessment of is the data, and that's also called the books, right? The books telling us a story that hopefully a really bright kindergartner could read, as opposed to a full-on financial professional. Are there acronyms being used? Are they set up in a way that it'll support the cash management systems that we put in, so that we can actually clearly see it? Are you using the detailed information that you're currently keeping to make decisions with, or are you just keeping it for the sake of it? And those kinds of decisions. So we go in and we really work with them and or their bookkeeper and or CPA to make sure that we have a chart of accounts and a set of books that really serves them for management purposes, not just compliance purposes, meaning tax purposes. Yeah. So first 60 days, it takes us, in most cases, not all, but in most cases, those two things right there, getting your cash position square, and financial clarity is my first 60-day focus. Unless they have something that's keeping them from focusing on those two things. And then I say, okay,
that can happen.
I'm going to set this aside and we're going to deal with getting your mind, at least, if not solving that problem, finished today. And we won't move on until that becomes a manageable or a non-issue for you, because I've been around long enough and I have enough trophies right here, these gray hairs that I have, to know that if I can't get a entrepreneur to focus, then, and
I'm doing it.
it's their problems that we're worried about, not what Michael thinks their problems are. Whatever is on their mind is, anyway, that's my first 60 days.
Right. That's why, you're right. That's when they come to us, and that's where we say we meet them where they are, right? Because we can convince them, we can talk to them about all the things, which they do come to us for our advice, but they not outside of what's already wearing them down. So it's going back to your first, answer and your first comment about meeting them where they're at. You can't change their mind, and they come with us with some type of financial pain, normally around cash, and you have to get that organized. So, we're built on profit first, right? Because of the book, Profit First for Real Estate Investors. So when do you say because you got to assess it, right? You can't implement a profit first system on numbers that aren't correct. So, and then what do you do with how you use our dashboard, our tools, what we have in place to actually start implementing profit first for them?
Oh, excellent question. So I love our tools. And what I do love about our tools is we've got a myriad of tools, some of which apply to the specific time frame and or the individual. And so I try my best to visually limit it to the tools that we're focused on. That's the very first thing as I go into that first tool, that dashboard. But the very first thing that we start with is a profit first. When we start to look at clarity and to start to look at implementing profit first, we do what we call a profit first assessment and rollout plan, or PFARP. That's what we call it, a profit first assessment and rollout plan. And a lot of that has to do with both the clarity that we've already established, meaning the cleanliness of the books, but also kind of assessing the actual cash flow to determine how we're going to set up profit first. So we have a whole tool on our system that helps us with that. That cash position, we also have a tool on the system that helps us with that cash position as well. And I usually move that one right to the front. I move that tab right to the front, right in front of the dashboard. And then I put the profit first assessment and rollout plan next to it. And that's where we start out with.
Awesome. Yeah, because they got to know where their money's going. And they don't realize it sometimes. You look at their expenses and they say, wow, I spent that much on 50 subscriptions. Why did I subscribe to that many? So see a lot of money going out the door.
Yeah.
All right. That's awesome. So a lot of people too, they think, I can do profit first. I read the book. I can implement this. So two questions, kind of like, why are we so different than just a DIY? They can do it themselves. And if you have like someone that's come in before and said, like, I already implemented profit first, and we had to kind of revamp it a little bit.
Yeah. Some profit first is a beautiful, beautiful system because of its simplicity. But I've never, and by the way, literally every client that I've ever worked with, and perhaps I'm sure that it's the same with everyone, are super bright people, right? They get it. And oftentimes what I describe profit first as the dumbing down of cash flow management, right? Technically speaking, it is really the management of a statement of cash flows. That's really what profit first is, because that's what it tells us. But who can manage a statement of cash flows? It's very confusing. So what we do is the statement of cash flows, by the way, ties the balance sheet and the profit and loss together and gives us an overall picture of that cash flow. Anyway, point being, the profit first system is simple, but it's not always as intuitive as you would think it is. One of the very first rules in both Mike Michalowicz's original book, and I know that David mentioned it as well, the cardinal sin and the number one sin I see in 100%, including clients I work with today, is the DIY systems that most entrepreneurs put together themselves are overly aggressive. So they start with where they would like to be, or where they think they could make sacrifices, and they set their allocations way, way too aggressive. And literally 80-90% of the time, it will either fail or it will, at a bare minimum, be less than optimal. And by the way, most of the time, it's not giving them what Profit First could actually give them if they went through a much more gradual approach to it. Yeah.
Build it out for quarters to come. You don't have to rush it.
That's right.
You know, you don't have to do it in a week. It's like people used to tell me when I wanted to rush through school. It's like, well, you're going to turn 30 regardless. So you're either going to be 30 with a degree or 30 without a degree. That's right. Exactly. That kind of hits me as like, you know, there's patience to everything. And if you move too fast, then you're going to end up, there's another cardinal sin, right? Transferring money from here to there to here to there. And then now it just becomes a confusing mess. All you have now is bank accounts that hold money.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's about, you know, having the right amount of money in the right place at the right time for the right purpose, not just moving money around. And
right.
So, and that's something that oftentimes, the other part of Profit First that is confusing for DIY folks that put it in there is they overemphasize, not overemphasize, that's the wrong word, but listen, I describe Profit First as the combination of two concepts. One of them is a pay yourself first, and the second is grandma's envelopes, right? So we're implementing grandma's envelopes in multi-million-dollar businesses. That's what we're doing, right? We put money in the envelopes, and we're not going to spend the rent money because we've run out of food. We're going to make a pot of chili and make it last till payday. That's what we're going to do. Okay. So that's the whole concept, really. And we're doing that in businesses. But what I do find is that the whole pay yourself first part sometimes gets out of line. Okay. You can only pay yourself first. First of all, committing to paying yourself first is 100% in alignment with what we teach. No doubt about it. The amount that we pay ourselves first is not necessarily the part that's in alignment. So what we try and do is set it up so that the way I have combated that is that I focus 100% of all of my Profit First implementations on one thing and one thing only in the very beginning, and that is owner's compensation. Right? So I choose to do a personal deep dive into every client that I work with. I take them through a nauseatingly repetitive series of questions that are basically the same questions 50 different ways to really understand what their actual need is. Okay. And that's not what Michael thinks their need is. That's what their lifestyle is. So I say, we're going to define what it costs to fund your current lifestyle. And we're going to build your cash plan around that. And then I'm going to back in to that cash plan to see, can the business sustain that cash plan? If it can, we're golden. If it can't, then we got some work to do. But that's going to be entirely up to the owner to decide to make those adjustments for themselves. Okay? We also find that they're not paying themselves what they probably should, given their investment of time, energy, money, and risk. So that also happens. There's no doubt about it. But I want to make sure that, listen, if an owner is not paying themselves enough to sustain their lifestyle, they will take the money. They will take the money because that's the priority. They're going to take the money. And they're going to, those are the ones, not the ones that are underpaying. The ones that are overpaying will take the money anyway. So we have to deal with that first.
You're right. That's why they started the business, to support themselves. So we've got to get to that number. I like how you brought importance to that. And, you know, sometimes they don't know, and it is about asking those questions. Sometimes they don't know what they need. They have a need number, they have a want number. So, but when we're asking the right questions, it's so different from DIY. They can't not do it correctly with the help of a CFO on their side and walking them through the process.
Yes.
So that's important. I like how you touched on that. So the Simple CFO dashboard, that took forever to implement. It's got a lot of sheets. It's got a lot of tools. There's so much in there, but we try to make it so it can help all the clients. That doesn't mean that every client needs 20 sheets, right? They're all different. So walk me through a couple of your most important sheets on the dashboard and that resonate with your clients and help you and them make decisions together.
Yes. And I actually, on a regular basis, I do find individual sheets that I use for very, very specific situations. But for the most part, I use the same 4 or 5 sheets because my approach is so cash focused that it generally focuses around those few sheets. And that is, once we've gotten through the profit first assessment and roll-up plan, the allocation sheet is the one we use the most. In fact, that's the one that our clients use themselves on a regular basis, that allocation sheet that tells us how we're going to actually allocate monies that are in our deposit account, right? Or our income account. I also use the, I have to admit, I start with, in the very beginning, until I know that the books are super clean and that we have them flowing properly into the sheet, I use a legacy cash position calculator that I created many moons ago to start out with. And then the most important that I have found is that cash position managing sheet. I'm even having a hard time remembering exactly what the tab is called.
That's because we've changed the names of it a couple times. So it is cash position. But most people find it that since it relates to the property, the owners see property management position
great.
or property management cash flow system. I can't think of it either, but just so you can see how the cash flows in and out. And since it ties directly to QuickBooks, it can pull everything in.
Yes.
Every morning it automatically updates, and then you get all your current numbers of what they spent and what they're doing.
Yes. And as you mentioned earlier, I want to jump in right now and running. And oftentimes the financial clarity piece in the books don't paint the picture in that automated system on occasion. And so I look at it. If they're pulling the way I think they should be pulling, we'll do that. Otherwise, I have an alternative sheet that I pull in, and we do a very much manual process. It's a simplified version of that sheet. It seems to work, but we have a good idea of the commitments that we've already made, knowingly or not. And we know how much cash we have, and every single week we update that on a manual basis. That's the old way we did it, and that's fine. I got the longevity to prove that it works. But I love the automated system now because it's super intuitive now, and it really helps a lot. So both are wonderful tools. Those are the primary ones I use. I mean, honestly, that, out of all the tools that we have, those are the ones that I primarily use.
Right. Because you got to make sure the cash is, in order.
Yes.
Definitely important. I agree. All right. So let's wrap it up a little bit. If you had to pick one client success story that fully demonstrates how a Simple CFO system worked for them or is currently working, doesn't have to be like a full transformation, but just kind of what their problem was, what'd you do for them, what systems you set up, and how things are going for them now. And it doesn't need to be names, just an example.
And it's a current client that I've been working with. It's probably been 3 years, but I'm just going to say about 2.5 years. One of my very favorite people, let alone clients on the planet. Super, the whole family is amazing. But anyway, so they had a issue about 2.5 years ago when we first started working, where they were building 3 different exit plans in their business, focused heavily on flips, a couple of wholesales, but their ultimate, a couple of wholesales and some wholesales as well, and really focused. But what they really wanted to do is build wealth in the long term, and that is build a rental portfolio. And they were kind of scrapping at that. Well, we got in, and at the time, I think he might have had, I'm not even going to say I will, because I'll say the amount now at the end. He was running between, $0 and $10,000 in his bank account depending on the day, right? It was up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. The flips were way causing him to have a cash problem. If you look at all the flips that he did, he knows how to buy, he knows how to renovate, he knows how to do everything. Every single deal was a profitable deal. But it illustrates the first subject that we talked about, and that is timing. Okay, timing on cash flow is your biggest issue. And so that was basically putting him behind. And he's a smart guy, a hard worker. Anyway, we made a decision.
Trying to catch up.
Huh? What's that?
Constantly trying to catch up.
Yeah, constantly playing catch up and just really defeated, right? And I saw so much potential in this guy. I said, listen, if it were me, I would consider, because we caught him at a time where he had only a couple of flips ready to go, but he had a bunch of opportunities ready to run, right? I said, let's consider this. We already had gone over what his wholesaling operation looked like, and it was sharp. He had a system down pat. He was doing really well, but he wasn't making the big money because he was focused on those big flips, right? He saw that end game, and I can wait, and I'm patient, and I'm not a spendthrift, so I know this will work out for me. I said, well, let's just take a break from that concept and let's look at this amazing wholesale model that you've created, team that you've created, that you're supporting, right? And let's focus on that. He literally went in 3 months from primarily flips, using the data that we already created, we saw the data, and we saw what we had to do in order to put him in a position, how many wholesale deals he had to do, all of this. So basically, over that next 3 to 4 months, and certainly within that first year, 100% wholesale, completely stopped flipping, okay? And that wasn't necessarily the plan in the beginning, but it became the plan, right? And so we used our systems and our coaching to get him to a point where every single year now he was ending his year, ready to start his new year now at $200,000, $300,000, sometimes even $400,000 in cash, ready to do as many deals as he wants. And we've come full circle now. Right now, we are now looking at new opportunities from which to deploy some of that cash, but he knows that his liquidity targets that we set, those cash targets, are the reason that he can now have choice to do whatever deals that he wants to do. And that has been such a joy to see him do that. And, he certainly has the smarts to do it. But the systems that we created, I think, were instrumental to him waking up at the end of that year and saying, oh my gosh, I have I not only have cash, but I can make choice now. I know that what I can do. He's getting tired of wholesaling, so he's now getting back into the action, so to speak. But he's doing so in a controlled manner, and I'm super proud of him. And it's also this last year was very tough in his market and generally speaking. But he was able to ride out last year and even start this year reasonably healthy. It wasn't as good as it was the last 2 years, but he started very, very reasonably healthy, was able to cash flow his way, never took any money out of his own pocket. In other words, he paid himself the exact same amount, and growing, including his profit distributions and everything. So he really used our system as designed to dig himself out of a hole. And that was just a super fun project. I've done others similar, but that's the one that jumped out at me. That's the one that jumped.
That's awesome, because that shows how you've been able to transform, the whole business. And I mean, not that they can't do it alone, because they are super intelligent, but how you've been able to walk them through all the systems, the processes. And I want not, clients, when they lean forward and they're like, whatever we need to do. Yes, you tell me to stop this. You tell me to run back over here. And you kind of create this partnership that, I always say, like, I don't want to be a consultant. I don't want to be a vendor to you. I want to be a partner. I want to talk you through all this. So the fact that he dialed in, and I can see how excited you are about telling that story, because I know I feel it when we can transform businesses like that. So I love it. I love it. I love that. It's like you fixed him. You know, you kind of feel like you fixed him.
I helped. He fixed himself. So yes, I definitely helped.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that story. All right. Well, so we'll wrap it up a little bit. Thank you, Michael, for being here and walking us through what you do. Simple CFO system. This is what we do every single day with every single client. It's kind of cool, you know, as you see that it's fun to do this. It's awesome to watch these transformations. So, I mean, if you're out there now and you're listening to this podcast saying, you know, that's me, I feel like my cash is always dwindling, I can't, you know, make good decisions, then, you know, you're not alone. As you see, this is probably 4th or 5th episode that we've done. You know, we kind of share the same stories. We see the clients come in and you guys are not alone. It's fixable. And you don't have to do it alone. So if this resonates with you and you want to work with a CFO, head over to simplecfo.com, book a discovery call, just see if it's, you know, something you want to jump into and let's see if we can get you the clarity that you deserve in your business. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you being here. And we'll see everyone in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Simple CFO Case Files on the Profit First for Real Estate Investors podcast. If you found this helpful, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our guest interviews featuring other real estate investors and our Profit First chats with David Richter. If you're ready to bring clarity and structure to the finances in your business, visit profitrei.com to apply for a free financial discovery call with our team.